In 1954, at the age of 25, Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama. Over the next 14 years, he would become an iconic figure worldwide in his unquenchable thirst for civil rights. And today, games will be played in 14 NBA arenas, where the memory of Dr. King will be honored and celebrated 91 years since his birth here in Atlanta. And with that, we welcome you to TNT NBA Tip-Off, presented by Auto Trader. I'm Ernie Johnson. In just a few minutes, I'll be joined by Kenny, Charles, and Shaq as we bring you an NBA triple header from Memphis, Boston, and Portland. So much has been said about Dr. King, so many of his words echoing to this day. But we begin this afternoon with what we think is a rather unique way to celebrate and spread his legacy through the lens we know best, the lens of sports. We partnered with the production company Wondros and are able to bring you candid conversations with some of these central figures of the civil rights movement to learn how sports shaped the outcome of the movement and how in turn the sports world we know was forever shaped. The words you'll hear come straight from Dr. King's inner circle, where young activists put their lives on the line with the dream of turning back violent racism with love.
It's 11 o'clock Sunday morning when the churches, the synagogues get together. But the most integrated hour of the week is from 1 o'clock to 6, when it's football and basketball or baseball, sports. I have seen sports lead the way into desegregation.
My goal in life was to simply pass by school and go on and play professional basketball. But there are things in all of our lives that changed drastically. On the way on the bus coming to Nashville, Tennessee, when we got to the Tennessee state line, the bus driver came back and said, "You'll have to move to the back of the bus." And I thought it was a compliment because I was 6'5", and I said, wow, you get to Tennessee and you're getting more room at the back of the bus. I was completely oblivious to what was going on. But when we got to the bus station, I was kind of thirsty, so I went to get some water, and a man grabbed me by the back of the neck and said, "You don't drink out of this water fountain. That's for you all over here." And that was my real first overt kind of sign of racism growing up.
Black school didn't have a stadium or a track. So the way it was, the Central High School was a white high school. They had their games on Fridays. We had ours on Saturday. So I think we felt a partial ownership of Central High School too. I don't think white people thought we should, but we certainly did.
I remember Dr. King went over to Fort Stewart to play basketball. That's the way we organized people in communities to stop riots and things like that. You'd meet them on the basketball court, and we'd play basketball with them a little while and then get them to talking. Everybody was a pretty good baller, but we didn't expect him. And he wanted to play under the basket in the low post. And said, "What are you doing out there? Come on out here." He said, "Look, just get me the ball." And what we realized was that he'd grown up in the YMCA, and he was small, but he was very quick, and he could shoot with either hand. And so he held his own on the basketball court or in a pool room. He was just a good, well-rounded guy who happened to focus on trying to save the world.
No matter what anybody said, segregation now, segregation forever, Martin King knew that the North Star was going to be an end of segregation. He may not live to see it, but he knew that this country would be a better place than it was when he and I and others were sitting around, as you say, in Birmingham. He knew it.
And see, we were not accusing anybody of anything. His idea was, look, I can't help it that I'm born black and you're born white. There's nothing wrong with me or you, but we were born into an unjust relationship, and we need to focus on changing the relationship.
Two words that kept us going in the civil rights movement, those of us who were there: sacrifice and risk. What are you willing to sacrifice, and what are you willing to risk? The coaches, I was a basketball player, they said, stay out of that. We brought you to school to play basketball, not to get involved with all of this. You're gonna lose your scholarship if you go down there and march, or you go down there and protest, or you rally. but we knew that the cause was bigger than ourselves.
You can have a split personality and be racist in your daily life and so forth, but you were going to pay attention. So when you had someone like Jackie Robinson come into the Brooklyn Dodgers, you may have had white segregationists who said, I'm not all for this integration stuff and all that stuff, but they still want to see him play. Because what are you looking at? You're looking at talent.
Young people, I think, have a new way of looking at things. So I have a sense of optimism at this point right now of what we've got to do. And our role is to let them see that many of us were afraid, and you cannot quit. You've got the social media, you've got contacts. We'd have to get on a telephone, and we use a mimeograph machine to get the information out. You can push a button and touch 30,000. They've got more than we ever had. As Andy always says, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were kind of fumbling along, and it just happened, you know.
Oh, we've come way forward. We've changed the racial consciousness of the nation. It still shocks me to see how comfortable people are on football teams or in the movies or just walking the streets.
They say, oh man, Martin Luther King, you ask the kids, they say, yeah, he led some marches, didn't he? No, it was bigger than that. It was bigger than that.
You look at the television footage of the audiences today, just jammed with people, white and black. Periodically, I watch and I tear up a little bit, and I think about what Martin King would do, his reaction would be, if he could just see a panoramic view of America on a Saturday afternoon. But he'd cry like me, he'd see it. Now, I got a lot of reservations about how far our country has or has not come. But I have a lot of confidence that we're going to get there. When I look at those stands, we're going to get there.
Absolutely powerful, riveting piece to get us started here today. Welcome, everybody. Shaq's here, Kenny here, Charles here. And Charles, you're the executive producer of that profile that we just watched with Wondros.
Yeah, and I'm really proud. Thanks everybody at Turner for letting my company do it. You know, being around Mayor Young, Ambassador Young, and all these older great black men that I've been fortunate, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Kareem, guys who were really in the civil rights movement. Every time I see those guys, I just say thank you. And that really doesn't do it justice. Because I couldn't imagine, I've never not been able to go to a school, go to a bathroom, drink out of a water fountain. So I've never been through no real struggle in my life. I'm not gonna act like I can play like I'm a martyr. But I will say this, obviously we've come a long way, but I was reminded after watching the NFL for the last few weeks about not giving black coaches an opportunity. And it's always an issue with things like that. And I implored the owners to give the black coaches jobs, being general managers, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, but also head coaches. So even though we've come a long way, we still have a long way to go.
What did it mean? You guys have all played on MLK Day, correct, in the course of your careers. Shaq, what made it special? Because guys in the course of an 82-game season will say, oh, this is just another game. But what did it mean to play on this day?
It means a lot. You know, he's done a lot. And, you know, Dick Gregory was a friend of mine before he passed away. And we used to talk about the civil rights movement a lot. And his quote was, because Dr. Martin Luther King never showed fear, his courage helped the rest of us face the world unafraid. And I go back and I look at all the times that he was getting arrested or he never really showed fear. So, you know, to learn about this man, to, you know, try to set examples as he did, like that he got his bachelor's, his master's, his doctorate at an early age. He was super educated. That's why every time you see me, I try to show the peace sign. You know, we still have a long way to go, you know, still, but, you know, he's he's done a lot. You know, he's paved the way for so many people, as well as all the names that Charles mentioned. But, you know, for us to be able to play on this day, we owe it to him and all the other civil rights leaders and all the other martyrs that have, you know, paved the way for us.
What was your biggest takeaway from the piece we just saw?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is not to minimize or desensitize the effects of not only the civil rights movement and slavery, because these people that we're watching are alive today. They're, you know, all of us whose parents are still alive, we're part of that. This isn't, I have an 11-year-old son, Malloy, and a 7-year-old London. For them, feels so far removed when in actuality they can go to their grandfather, who's in the house with them this weekend, and talk about this exact moment he's lived through. So, and I think that as the internet world and it becomes desensitized that this is one generation removed. And so the effects of that causes the undercurrent of things that happen. Because the conversations that I've had in my household and other people's had in the household that were living through these moments affects the way your thought process is. And once you realize that, then you could change your thought process and say, well, that was right, wrong, or indifferent. But to think that it's far-fetched away and not this undercurrent that still is available and accurate, I think that's what, a lot of times where we fail to recognize both sides.
And Ernie, I want to say one thing before we go to break. I want to give my best to Congressman John Lewis, who's battling for his life and who's a true American hero.
We've had him on this very show on this very day in the past.
And I just want to wish him the best. He's a great American hero.
I love how Andrew Young also just described Martin Luther King Jr. that way, saying he was just a well-rounded guy who just happened to focus on saving the world.